All right, we're all cleaned up. We have the strike water in the Brewzilla. So let's talk about the setup process. I didn't film my cleaning process or anything like that. I did do a heating test from the top of the water to what the Brewzilla was telling me. And there was a little bit of a delay from the computer to the Brewzilla, so it was tough to get a true reading. I was probably off by about 1 degree to 1.5 degrees, which to me isn't a big deal. The true test is going to be tomorrow when we brew. So I didn't film any of that, any of the cleaning process, but I did want to mention some things that stood out to me during the process. Number one, being able to set the temperature on the computer is definitely an adjustment. I haven't gone into the controller enough to be able to determine if I can set temperatures in the controller or if I have to go on my phone or my computer through Wi-Fi to do it. What I can tell you is from the time that I set the temperature in the laptop to the time, or my phone, to the time that it hits the screen on the Brewzilla is second. It's like a second. I mean, it's super quick. Really like that. One thing I found to be a little confusing was that when I changed from metric to imperial on my laptop, well, first on the controller, setting it was very easy. But when I set it on my laptop, it would change over for only a few seconds, and then it would switch back to Celsius. So it would give me the Celsius number, but the Fahrenheit reading. So that was a little confusing, and that's something that I'm still trying to figure out. I'm not overly concerned about it, just because when I'm setting the target heat, I'm setting it in Fahrenheit, and it's reading in Fahrenheit. And it's reading on the controller in Fahrenheit, and it's heating in Fahrenheit. So that's really all I'm kind of concerned with. I'm not overly concerned with what the screen says. If it says 9.5 degrees Fahrenheit, it should say Celsius, or it should read out what it is Fahrenheit. That stuff I'm not overly concerned with, but just something that was interesting. Another observation that I thought was really interesting is having, no loss, having a system where everything, that center drain and everything goes down that center drain is awesome. I didn't have to tilt the 65 liter once to like dump out extra water or anything. It did a good job. I will say utilizing 5-Star Chemicals Star Sand. It's very foamy, so there is a lot of residual foam when I'm done sanitizing that is laying on the bottom of the kettle, and I didn't want to wipe it up with a non-sanitized towel, so I just kind of left it there. I'm not overly concerned. Don't fear the foam, as they say. And in my homebrew club, www.brewtubers.com, as 5-Star as a sponsor, we had them on during a club meeting, and they kind of eased our minds as a collective club as we talked about PBW and Star Sand and foam and everything else. So I'm not overly concerned about the foam aspect from the Star Sand, but just something to monitor and something to be aware of when you get one of these systems. One thing that I have to still figure out that I haven't yet is how to delay start. With that said, 5 gallons of sanitizer heated up from 40 degrees Fahrenheit to 120, heated in 11 minutes. That's pretty amazing. So I'm pumped about that. I'm not sure how much I'm really gonna have to delay start for tomorrow. I'll probably be up an hour before brew day anyway, so I could probably just set it myself. But I will try to look into it and see if I can delay start. But other than that, getting ready for the brew day tomorrow. Really anxious, utilizing a new system, but really excited to do that and try out some new things with a new beer.
What's going on, guys? Nick Lessigore here, friend of LiQWYD, Exit 12 Homebrew in the house. Oh yeah. Double brew day. We're doing a brown ale, but that's not really important. We're brewing for a competition. Brown ale, that's in the Robo Brew Gen 3.1. Yes. But the star of the show, the headline act, the coup de grace, is... You can't see it. Well, you'll see plenty of it. That is expert camera work by the kid. What we're doing is we're brewing in the
brand new Brewzilla 65L Gen 4, and we're brewing a double New England IPA. Finally, we upgraded. Yes, we can brew beers as far as the eye can see from an ABV standpoint. Hopefully, we'll see how we do with Brewhouse Efficiency.
Yeah. So this one is, like you said, we're gonna do an Imperial New England IPA. We shot high on ABV, knowing that our efficiencies are using crap. So we're gonna end anywhere from 6.5 to 10.5. We don't know yet.
That's actually very accurate. Except we do know on the Robo Brew we get 70% pretty much across the board.
Oh, if we have an 80% brew day today, this thing is going to have some heat going.
This is going to be a heaty boy.
Oh yeah. So this is the most grains I think we've ever done. If I'm not mistaken.
Except for on one of our systems, yeah. The only one we did that was bigger was back in August when we had Mike Trans 77 Trans Am guy who did 40.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a little over 23 pounds of grain. We have some 2-row in there and some Pilsner malt. I think it's about a 40-30 split there. And then a bunch of flake adjuncts. We have flake wheat, flake oats, and we also have golden naked oats. And I think we also have some carrot body in there as well, or carrot pills. So we have that. Another thing we're doing that's very different that we've never done before is ash popping. We have 2.5 ounces of Cascade in the mash. So we're doing that. We've never done that before. We're super excited to see what that does to the beer. And, we got a pretty aggressive hop schedule too. We have Cashmere at Flame Out. We have Whirlpool, 3 ounces of Cashmere, 3 ounces of Galaxy. And then we're also dry hopping Galaxy and Cashmere. And then to tie it all together, our yeast is Cosmic Punch by Mega yeast. And we're using that because it is said that unbinds thiols that are in the mash hops and things like that. A lot of people use it for Phantasm. We don't have Phantasm in this, but we're going to see what it does. Our goal is a super, super hoppy, fruity, fruit bomb with a high ABV without as much bitterness. So that's what we're shooting for. Hopefully we get it. We're super excited.
I'm really excited on a few different levels to use the Brewzilla to see what we get for efficiency. We understand, and maybe we'll offer some tips as we go along in terms of our learning experience and things, maybe we would have done differently and kept the same. We've learned with these all-in-one units that there's a dialing in process, there's a learning process. So we went from the suggested brewhouse efficiency of 70% down to 68%. Taking into account 2 different things: learning the system, as well as the amount of flaked adjuncts that we're using. Generally, when you're throwing in flaked wheat, flaked barley, flaked oats, you're going to see a loss in efficiency somewhere. The reason why those are 2 reasons why we brought down the brewhouse efficiency. So if we end up higher, that's fine. What we did was we brought down brewhouse efficiency, and then we brought up the amount of grains that we're using to try to make up for it. So if we end up higher than 68% efficiency, you're looking at triple IPA territory. If you end up lower, that's actually okay because again, we're trying to make up for it on the front end, utilizing more grain, adding more grain.
Yeah, 100%. This is an experimental beer. It's the first time we brewed this recipe, so having it, have this wide range where we're okay with it being within any of those ranges is great. Obviously, we're shooting for higher, or at least what we want, but it's okay if it goes lower.
Good to go. And that would be a single IPA, but it's drinkable. So
it's all going to be beer at the end of the day.
It's all going to be beer. We're brewing both of these beers for competition. So, but really, the star of the show, like I mentioned, is the Brewzilla. And really getting excited, really excited to get into it and see what it does. So let's get started.
Oh yeah. Okay, back at the brewery, brewing on the new Brewzilla 65L, our newer system. So obviously we're doing a smash beer. Just kidding. Instead of doing something to just make sure that the system's all good, we have a highly complicated New England IPA. We're doing mash hopping. We're doing whirlpools. We're doing everything. We got a lot of flaked adjuncts, an insane amount of flaked adjuncts. We're trying to make big beer, a big New England IPA. So we're just going in. These are gonna be our mash hops. And for right now, I'm just gonna throw in our salt, our brewing salts. Let that circulate for a minute, and then we'll be ready to mash in.
DIPA mash.
Good mashing. So we have the most grains we've ever used in a recipe, and I don't think we're going to be anywhere near what this system can actually do, which is great. We bought this 65L system, but for the most part, I think most of our beers are still going to be 5 gallons. We have no desire right now to do anything above 5 gallons. But that could change. You know, we're thinking about maybe doing some experiments.
It would be fun to do some of our experimental series, like Progress 71, being able to brew a double batch.
Yep.
And use 2 different yeasts.
Yep. So, you know, like our brown ale, maybe doing different fruits, different adjuncts. So we're really excited to see what this system can do.
There's definitely a lot of advantages. I would probably suggest, we have 4 systems now. We really could have saved ourselves a lot of money by going with a bigger unit in the very beginning. So I would, if hindsight being 2020, I probably would have gotten a 65L much sooner.
Yeah. One other thing I really do like about this one is, and I just realized it does not have that malt pipe in the middle like the old Robo does. So I'm not worried about mashing onto that and knocking out the little plug. There goes the rest of the flake.
And Brandon mentioned we're really not even close to hitting the top.
Yeah.
It's really careful on the bottom screen.
Oh, okay.
About 3/4 of the way through, and we're currently sitting at 152. So that temp fell nice and quick.
Yeah, so at first we were worried, you know, with everything going into this beer, stuck mash, things like that, but this is still looking like we have plenty of...
Very thin. Yeah, very thin even still. As we mentioned earlier, we'll be sparging with less than a half a gallon. So this is really kind of just we really could have just thrown in the half gallon of water. It wasn't spatial, it's just what the software said to do. 1.5 quarts per pound.
Sugars in there. Okay. No dough balls.
So it's starting to thicken up a little bit, which I actually like. I like that consistency. A little bit of that oatmeal consistency.
Yep. So like you said, we're going to get it fully mashed in, let it sit for maybe a minute, and then we're going to throw in the hops, and then stir that up again. Let it all settle in for about 10 minutes, take a pH reading, and then we'll be ready to go on this go in. Thanks. Okay, so we are going in with our mash hop of 2.5 ounces of Cascade. We're just gonna drop those little guys right in the pool.
Those little babies.
Like I said, this is the first time we have mash hop, so we're gonna see what this is all about. Do a little stir action in there. And we're interested. We're using Cosmic Punch as our yeast, which is said to, sort of release some of those down thiols in the mash hops, and we're gonna see what that's all about. So we are experimenting along with you, so stick with us. All right, guys. One thing we like to do just about 3 minutes before our 10-minute rest period, before we take our pH readings, we like to start the pump up to lower that a little bit from the side. We like to do that just to get everything mixed up so we get the most accurate reading. We'll let this go for about 3 minutes, then we'll take our reading and see where we are with match pH.
It also is worth mentioning we did trim down the recirculation tube to fit the specific beer that we're doing, and there was enough lime left that Kegland provided that we're going to use that as a secondary tube as well if we need it. It's a longer tube, so if we needed it for like a smaller beer, a smaller batch, we would use that 100%. So it is worth noting that we turned the pump up quite a bit after we took a pH sample, and it started, the level started to come up pretty fast. So I think we had 4 pounds actually of adjuncts, 2.5 ounces of hops, and overall about a 24-25 pound grain bill with no rice hulls. It started to plug up a little bit, so we turned it down, and right now it's actually up pretty high. I'd say we're at 75% open when it's plugged up, and now we're probably around 60, just a guesstimate. And right now it seems to be running just fine. So we shut it off when we saw the level start to rise. It slowly went down. We didn't have to mix the mash or anything, and then we were able to turn it back on after about 35 seconds, 30 seconds or so. Another thing I wanted to point out that's been interesting is the target and current temperatures. For the unit, I noticed that when I input a temperature, so the target's 152, if it's sitting at 149, what I'll do is I will go into the software and I will input, for the target temperature, I'll input 152. Or rather, sorry, I'll increase the target temperature to 154. And then what happens is the element turns on, and then it way overheats it from an element standpoint. So right now we're sitting at 149, 148. So what I'll do is, to try to make up for it, I'll turn it up to 154. I get the confirmation. You hear it turn on, and then it should start to heat here. And what happens is, if it turns on, as you can see the fire emoji, which means that it's turning on, it'll weigh, it'll overshoot. I got as high as 165. Now I'm very well aware that is just really. That's just the probe. That's not necessarily the whole mash. So with that understanding, I mean, it's okay, but I do think that there's some calibration that we could probably be doing on this. And the only reason why I'm showing you this whole thing is so I don't want to cut it. So 154, it turns off. You saw the fire emoji disappear. And it keeps quiet. So again, I don't know if that is a calibration issue, something that I need to look at, or what. But I think it's just part of learning the system. Can you turn that back down to 152? So I'll shut this off now, but just kind of wanted to show you we're up to 161.6 and climbing. Again, the probe isn't on, so I don't think it's heating. But it's something just for us to look at. So one thing we did want to do is take a temperature of the mash to see where we're at and see how much we're off. Right now we're reading 150. The current, the Brewzilla says, is 160. Target 152.1, and we're sitting at the top at 151, which is perfect. Yeah. You want to be between 150 and 152. And furiously shakes. So from the current reading at 159 to what we're reading at the top, we know that there's going to be a difference. That's about a difference of 8 degrees. It's coming down, 158.4. 158.3, but this temp at 151.3 is really staying pretty steady, so I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, that's perfect.
But we do think that there is some dialing in that has to be done so that the Brewzilla will read a little more accurately. And maybe that is the temp on the bottom, but I think some calibration could occur.
Yep, we'll look into that.
No? Three. Okay. Sounds like 4.
That was 3.
All right. We are prepping. We just mashed out.
Yep.
Now we're gonna pull the malt pipe on our brand new handy dandy pulley system.
Yep.
That the kid installed.
Very good.
God. So we're gonna pull this up. We're only gonna be sparging with less than half a gallon.
Yeah.
What we'll probably do is pull the malt pipe up, let it filter for a little bit and see where we're at, and then determine from there if we want to sparge or not.
Yep.
I have a feeling we'll end up sparging with more in order to get to our 7.5 gallon, but pre-boil volume, but we'll see.
Yeah, work in progress. Stick around. Keeping it on closer?
Yeah, keeping it on. This is a true test of the pulley system. It's great camera work, buddy.
What are you talking about?
I'm halfway out of the shot. As you can see, there's quite a bit of chit. It's sitting on top of the grain bed. That's that gray matter, which is kind of a byproduct of grain. Got it all foggy. This is what I wanted to show. The new pulley system is doing its job. So here's the boil. We're about, I'd probably say halfway into the boil.
Yep.
I did think a unit of this size would have a more vigorous boil. The Anvil Foundry has a more vigorous boil than this. And I also noticed that in order to get to 212, we had to set the target for 214. There are some settings, PID settings that we can play with that we have been playing with pretty much all morning. That we're gonna have to continue messing around with, but this is currently what we're looking at. I would say this is a rolling boil. It looks like maybe a more even boil, but I thought it was gonna be more vigorous.
Alright guys, we just hit the end of the boil. We do have a flame out edition, so I'm going to pause this. We are coming in with a 1/2 ounce of cashmere right at flame out. Then we're going to cool down to our whirlpool temps and we'll start the whirlpool. See you then.
Okay. Taking the chiller out. I'm gonna place it in. It's the jaded Hydra, I believe. It sits just above the water. Turn it on. So we may have to look into getting, for 5-gallon batches, getting a new warp chiller. It's good for now, it'll do, but for sure we want to look into a better warp chiller. Or not a better one necessarily, but one that sits below the surface. So we were cooling down the whirlpool. We overshot cooling, and so we ended up going down to about 150. So we're heating back up to 175, which is our whirlpool temp. As you can see, the Brewzilla controller is sitting at 190, and the thermometer is sitting at 167. So still some work to be done on dialing in the temperature difference. We did just mix this. We just stirred this, so. We'll stir it again real quick and you'll see the temp drop a little bit on the Brewzilla, I think, and then you'll see the differential. So we're coming down quite a bit. 160 and climbing. Coming down to 176 for the Brewzilla. 168 for the thermometer. It's a little bit closer. It's much closer this time. But that's pretty much where we're at. So, still some more work to be done.
Alright guys, we are up. We're a little over, but let me just give this a little stir. Still dialing in the differentials here, but we just took something on a temperature reading on top. We're right around 175, so we're just gonna roll with it. We have 3 ounces of cashmere and 3 ounces of Galaxy, and we're gonna put that in a whirlpool for 10 minutes at 175. Actually, I think it's 15 minutes at 175. Nick will put a little thing down there. So yeah, look at this thing. We're maxing this thing out here. So we're gonna put both these in. The good news is, if you guys are buying this 65-liter unit, this is the old Whirlpool arm that I think Kegland came out with for the older model Brewzillas, and we put it in here. We'll see if it works. It seems to look like it's gonna work. So we're just gonna throw those in the pool. We'll come in with the other one. Give it a little stir, and then we're gonna get this thing going on the pump. So we're gonna turn the pump on here. As you can see, we have the pump at 100%. We did notice that when you do the pump percentages, it more oscillates, it pulses instead of just taking down the pulse rate, the pump power, so that was a little different. We decided that we were going to keep it at 100% and use the dial here was our best way, because we've never been used to that pulsing. It would pump for like a half a second, and then it would stop and it would pump again, which is very weird to us. So we're just gonna keep it at 100 and dial, but it looks like with this old recirc arm, Whirlpool arm, this is definitely pushing the wort, so pretty good.
All right, so we just got done with the brew day.
Yep.
It was fairly easy up until the end, and we'll go over that briefly. Before we get into it, l'chaim.
Cheers.
I am drinking our oatmeal stout.
And I'm drinking our hoppy blonde ale.
First full pour. Oh, fantastic. So let's chat about our first impressions of the unit briefly.
Sure, yeah, it's I like the unit. Big old boy, big boy. Definitely 2 thumbs up there.
Yeah, I agree. Well made.
Sure, 100%. Yeah.
I really, some things I really enjoyed about it. Under the bottom, underneath, they don't have the bottom plate, so that if there was an issue, it's easy to get to and unclog something. The software is relatively intuitive for the simplicity. Yeah, if that makes sense. Like it presents simple, but it's pretty intuitive and it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, but I like the wrap system. I like that you can do it on the controller here. Also, you can do it through your phone or through a computer, and you can sort of monitor some stuff. So I was really impressed with that. I thought it was I like the program a lot.
So some, naturally with anything there's upsides and downsides, right? So we went over some of the upsides. Let's chat about some of the downsides. Firstly, we set this beer up to be in the 9.5% ABV range for a couple of reasons. One is it's a new system and we're trying to dial it in and understand what we're looking at for brewhouse efficiency. The second is because we were utilizing a lot of flaked adjuncts and we wanted to make sure, we wanted to be in the double IPA range. Not quite 9%, and we didn't think we'd get there, we just didn't think we'd be so low. So basically, we ended up with a 50% brewhouse efficiency. 20, as Brandon mentioned earlier, about 24 pounds of grain. 50% brewhouse efficiency will put us right around that 7.5% range. If it attenuates down the way we think, that's a double IPA, and that's good enough. Low end of a double IPA, but still a double IPA. With that said, there was plenty of space to add more grain if we wanted. In a bigger unit like this, brewhouse efficiency isn't as important unless you're looking to save money. Because you're looking to save money on grain, right?
Yeah.
We're not necessarily, this is our 4th all-in-one system for Christ's sake. We're not really in this to save money. So we know better if we were to brew this again, maybe you add 2 pounds more base malt to get in that 8% range if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, that's definitely something we'll have to dial in. We'll get better with efficiency, I'm sure. But we wanted to see what it would do with a big beer like this with a lot of flaked adjuncts. Complicated things with a mash hop. So, I'm assuming it'll only go up from here, but at least we were smart enough to have the wherewithal to plan for a little bit, adding more grain, bumping it up to a really high level of a double, and then hopefully get down to where
Right, and it's not ideal, but we know based on our brewing experiences and our systems in the past that that's kind of what you have to do. So there's going to be some adjusting there. With that said, there are a few reasons why we were so low. One could be the grain mill, although I don't tend to believe that because we had 70% efficiency on the ground ale we also did today in the Brew version 3.1.
Yep.
Not sure it's really the grain mill. Again though, brewing a New England IPA, you really probably maybe want to pulverize the grain, not pulverize it, mill it down maybe a little bit more fine than you normally would, especially when you have so much grain, and maybe throw in a couple handfuls of rice hulls.
Yeah.
Another reason could be the software in Brewfather, maybe we didn't dial it in correctly.
Sure.
And really account for loss in efficiency. And then another reason could just be getting used to the unit. You know, I just think that there's going to be some growing pains. Again, thankfully we have 65 years to play around.
Yeah, Nick just took the unit out of the box this week, so we really haven't had a chance. We just got like the regular one. We're super excited to try it out, but you know, setting up some of those grain efficiencies, loss efficiencies, we should be able to get a better rate, I think. One other thing that I will say that I would have liked them to do with the settings, the settings were kind of set up a little weird. I mean, we just saw a video from Key where he sort of tells us some stuff. I would have wished it defaulted a little to like zeros on some of these things, like the PID stuff like the heat hysteresis was set a little high. And when we did a little research, we found that it should be lower. So, you know, it's a really small gripe, but something as you get the unit, you might want to drop down some of those settings to 0 and then work your way up. We found that might be the best.
So I'll link that video from Keith from Kegland. I'll put it in our description so you can take a look when you're going through the settings. I would suggest doing what a lot of people are doing, which is calibrating it before you use it. We didn't do that. We calibrated on the fly. It worked for the mash, and then when we found, when we increased temperature, the issues from a temperature range standpoint kind of came back. And it even saw it in the boil. We set our target at 212. It sat at 210, mild boil. We increased it to 214 and brought it up to 212. So there's just some calibration that has to go in, that calibration work we have to do.
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, other than that, like I said, and one thing we will be looking probably into as soon as it's available in the States is maybe that other temp probe that goes in the top. Maybe that'll help. But we found that us taking some temps on the top and playing around with it. But definitely, I would say that putting some water in this unit or cold water in this unit, seeing how it gets up to range, and then sort of testing that out before you brew will probably make your brew day a little less painful.
Yeah, and overall, it was a good brew day. At the very end, and this is to Key's credit at Kegland, he has mentioned on more than one occasion not to use this unit, 35 or 65 Gen 4, not to use it to whirlpool. And we didn't listen. We whirlpooled with 6 ounces of hops, and we found that the tube on the very bottom that connects from the drain of the unit into the pump was clogged. So we had to pull it out, and we literally had to transfer from that. We pulled it out. Brandon held it up. Thankfully, we have a table that has a pump on it, a pneumatic pump. I got down and I unlatched the tube, and that's how we transferred to the fermenter. So not ideal, and there are things that you can do to fix that. We're thinking, from our standpoint, we have a Blickman Riptide pump, external. We also have the Spike Flow, which is a brand new pump that we haven't even used yet. So maybe hooking it up, throwing a cam lock on it, hooking it up to the Brewzilla, and using one of those external pumps that's powerful enough to push those hops through. Also, Gavin from the Homebrew Network has a pump modification video where you can upgrade your pump, and I'll also link that video too, and that's also an option.
Yeah, I know that a bigger pump comes standard on I think 120 liter or something along those lines, a bigger unit than the 65. It would have been awesome if that came standard with this, but I get why it isn't. But yeah, I think that We definitely want a whirlpool. It's definitely an option we're not willing to lose on the 65 for the most part. But again, you know, it's only for those higher ABV West Coast and New England IPAs. Everything else will probably be mindful of that and do it in the brew.
Yeah, and to that point, you bring up a good point. I think the next beer we're going to do on this unit is a double IPA West Coast style for a few reasons. I'm thinking we're going to utilize the same amount of grain, just no flaked atoms. And we're going to see what we get from a brewhouse efficiency standpoint, and factor that in and see what the 4 pounds of flaked atoms does to efficiency. And I think that's probably the next beer moving forward is a West Coast style double IPA to see from an efficiency standpoint. My only gripe with the system is the efficiency, and I'm not sure that that's a fair gripe for the system. Maybe that's something on our end.
No, it's really well built and kind of very intuitive for what it is,
Especially at the price point.
And that's what I was gonna say. For the price point, it was way more intuitive than I thought it would be. And that's the thing, I think it's just a grinding in process for us with this new system. But once we dial it in, I think we're gonna see a lot of gains from that.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at Exit12Homebrew on Instagram, at Exit12Homebrew on Twitter, Exit12Brewery on Facebook, and our email, exit12brewery@gmail.com. Don't hesitate to reach out. We can answer the questions as best we can the first time we've used it. We have a lot of experience with all-in-one units in general, so we can help out with that. I will say, to end the video, I do not think our efficiency issues came from the perforated holes in the side.
No.
But one of the reasons why we're going to do a double IPA West Coast style is to see if that is the case.
Yep, 100%.
Thanks so much for watching, guys.
Cheers.